Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to the Front Row Movie Reviews, the podcast for people who actually like movies and TV. And welcome to our 16th episode, because I like confusing people, of Discovering Star Trek. And we are here to talk about episode 15 of Discovery, which is Will You Take My Hand, the season finale. And with me, I'm Scott, and with me is...
Mike.
And Blake.
Mike has returned again. He is 2 weeks in. I am impressed, Mike.
Oh, I think I've been on more of these than everybody but you.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying you're actually alive.
Yeah.
It's baby steps, man. Baby steps. So we are here to talk about the season finale. So, of course, we'll talk about the episode, but I do want to give some discussion to the entire season. And then, of course, we're going to talk about season 2, which is obviously hinted at pretty hardcore in the last few minutes. It's kind of funny. Blake and I had so many issues about the last 2 minutes of the last episode. And now I think the last 2 minutes of this episode is going to be, at least for me, a shift. And Creeper, our resident Minecraft shipmaker, says, "Oh my God, that was the most beautiful thing ever." So obviously spoilers are in effect. So when we start talking about the new Constitution class, it's there. So let's go ahead and give our first impressions, and we will go with Mike first.
Man, I didn't hate this episode as much as I thought I was going to going into it. I was very, very pessimistic about the way the story and everything was going. I still think the story for this was stupid. But, ultimately it ended up being fairly satisfying for, I think it wasn't any longer than a normal episode either. I think it's still only like 45 minutes.
It was actually shorter than last week's. Last week was like 52, I think.
Yeah. So all in all, I thought it was decent.
Blake, what do you got?
So I think it was decent. I'm glad they've wrapped up, and hopefully I'm going to be moving in a new direction now. And yeah, I was surprised. After last week, I was not thinking this episode was going to go all that well. So I went into it with really low expectations, to be honest. I think as you and I discussed before, too, I was literally half expecting a column to rise up and a giant reset button be on it that they were just going to hit at one point. Just sort of say, "Oh, screw this," and hit the button.
We're going back in time.
Yep.
So
Where
I'm
we're
glad they
going,
didn't
we
go
don't
that
need
way.
no roads. Yeah, I was expecting the worst. I think that was pretty clear last week. I was expecting a huge reset button. We didn't get that. I was expecting halfway through the episode, I kept looking at the clock and I'm like, we have 20 minutes left. If they do a cliffhanger and keep this storyline going any longer, I'm going to be so pissed. But lo and behold, they wrapped everything up in the last 5 minutes, and they gave us what they promised. They said we're going to be more Star Trek in season 2, and those last 2 minutes were very much... The last 2 minutes were the pilot for Star Trek Discovery, basically. We could just kind of jettison season 1 and say, here you go, Star Trek Discovery, have a nice day. But I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. The one thing I do want to point out is I really like the homages to TOS. I'm not talking about the Orion slave girls because we really didn't need pasties in Star Trek. But did anyone notice who the dope-dealing Orion was?
Yeah, it was Clint Howard.
Yes, the uglier Howard brother. And does anyone know? Mike, do you know who Clint Howard is? Because Blake already knows. Oh, we lost Mike. And we gained Mike back.
Do I get to answer anyway since Mike just dropped?
No, because he's back. Mike, who's Clint Howard? Who is Clint Howard?
Ron Howard's brother.
Well, obviously.
I don't know. What do you...
He is Baylock.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Oh, come on.
I can picture it in my head. I know what you're talking about.
It's the little kid with the big eyebrows who is intelligent.
Yeah. I had no idea what his name was, but
yes, they brought Baylock back. All we need is his drink. What was his drink called? Oh crap! What was his drink called? Blake, what was his drink called?
You got me on that one.
Trogna. And of course, there was more homages to TOS. I think they were trying to prove a point, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So
I was going to say, I definitely saw the earworms, Khan's earworms.
Yes, and they were being cooked.
Yeah, yep. I quite enjoyed even the throwback to earlier in the season with the space whales.
Because wasn't it Tilly who said the whale was really cute?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and talk about what we liked about the episode. And Blake, we'll go to you first.
So I do like how they wrapped it up. I mean, I'm glad they didn't take the easy way out and just use the little spinny spore drive thing and go back in time and wipe it all out. So I'm glad they didn't go that way. In the parts we don't like, I'm sure we'll get into some of that. But the other part is the homages they did pay the original series. I think they're trying, especially, and I think it's the newer writers' room more so than the original writers' room, is doing their damnedest to tie this into say, yes, we know TOS is out there. It happens in 10 years. Let's start to connect those dots better than what we started with.
And oh, hell yeah, that they did.
And then as far as the other thing is, you're right. That ship was damn gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Since you brought it up.
I didn't say which one.
Should we wait to talk about it, or should we just talk about it? Because we're all going to say it. Oh, I don't know about Mike, but I was going to say it. Okay, let's talk about the Constitution class. Couple things. We knew that we were going to see it because Robert Meyer Burnett, who is a director, filmmaker, documentarian, whatever, everything that he does, was on my Twilight Zone show almost a half a year ago now. And he said his buddy was working on the Constitution class design for Discovery. So I knew it was coming sooner or later. And there was a lot of rumors online today and a couple days leading up to this that you're going to see the Connie. So we knew it was coming. But I love the fact that they pissed me off so much in preparation for this ship that I had to love it. I mean, it was good anyway. It looked really, really good. But because they had pissed me off so much a few episodes prior with the Defiant looking like a god-awful piece of machinery, they set me up to love this thing. Mike's shaking his head. Mike, did you not love the Connie?
No, I did. I'm just thinking how you got from a black and white wireframe like model to god-awful piece of machinery.
Okay, it had like the struts were bent.
Yeah,
the huge ass phaser
Mike,
cannons.
have you not seen what's behind Scott in his frame? Almost every one of
I
these?
know.
But it had holes in the saucer section, which we did get holes in the pylons, but I'll take it. But no, I mean,
They're speed holes.
It's harder to hit with a torpedo. You gotta... Sorry, Blake, I've completely taken over your thing.
Go ahead.
No, the Constitution class was freaking amazing. The chat room agrees on that. I think all of that was just the lead up and everything was amazing. Blake, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, and what I was going to say with it is, I think even with the, we've talked a lot, and I know your brother's been one of the biggest critics of the look of this show and how it doesn't look sufficiently period, which, he's just wrong. But
I agree with that. I think he's wrong too.
So I think they did a good job of making it updated enough to fit with the new series, but still to the original. And I think it looks better than the movie version, honestly.
Yep.
I think it fits better. So I'm curious to see where they kind of go with it next. And that'll be in the predictions part. But, I like that part. I think they've set up. I don't think we've seen the last of Philippa. I think that could become a reoccurring.
Yeah.
So I like that they left some threads open that can be pursued, while still kind of wrapping up some of the stupid stuff and getting us out of this whole idiotic Klingon war that none of us understood or saw the point of. Which I've got parts in my I don't like on that. So,
well, surprise, surprise, we didn't like the Klingon arc. One thing that also is being talked about in the chat room that I want to bring up because I'm sure we'll talk about it too is obviously not only did we get the Constitution class, but this is Pike's Constitution class, and we know who he's not the first officer yet, but we know who the science officer is of Pike's Enterprise. So that's also something that may be coming up down the road too. And I'm not as freaked.
We do know who number 1 is on that ship, though, too. So that
yes, Majel Barrett.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm not upset if they recast the original cast because we did that already. The one thing Blake, I had a question for you on is when you said better than the movies, do you mean the reboots?
Yeah, the reboots.
Okay, because if you're going to knock the refit, we may have a problem. But
that's a future podcast, Scott.
It will be, yes.
We'll get you arguing on starships later.
They're pretty. If anyone wants to pay,
as long as they fit your, defined what size they should be.
If anyone wants to pay for Eagle Moss little ships that are like $100 a piece to send to me, I'd be happy to take them. They look really pretty.
They actually,
but they're like $100. It's like a subscription service to get them. I was looking into it. It's insane. You have to subscribe. You may not get the ship you want right away, and whatever. Okay, Mike, what do you got?
They don't send them to you in a blind plastic egg, and you don't know what you're getting.
My daughter is obsessed with Hatchimals. Yes, that is a discussion that I do not want to bring up because I'll get a nervous twitch. Mike, what are some things you liked about the episode?
I'm with you. I really enjoy all the homages. I've really enjoyed that they're building the world out in Discovery. It's not like they're even doing anything major. We saw some Orions, which was cool, but they also mentioned Beta Z. They mentioned, I swear we saw a Trill in this episode at some point.
It looked like it.
So that's cool. I really like that they're doing that. And I'm sad that it took until the last 3 episodes of the season before we got there. We'll talk more about the stuff I didn't like, but in general, I do feel like this had a very Star Trek-y vibe to it. It was much more of the optimistic. There's hope for us yet, overall kind of feel. And despite the fact that I didn't care for the plot line, and again we'll talk about this, I think the way that they decided to wrap it up it felt satisfying. It felt Trek. That's it. That's all I need. I need the show to feel right. And it finally did.
Yeah, sorry, I'm munching on some Girl Scout cookies at the moment. I have about 2,000 boxes in my garage if anyone will like some.
So you want starships and people to buy your cookies is what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. That would make my life a whole lot easier.
You doing okay, buddy?
Okay.
And just silence. Okay.
If I blink twice, Mike, send help.
Okay.
So, you guys have hit on a lot of things. I think I've had this question a couple episodes now. Am I more upset at Brian Fuller, or am I more upset with the current showrunners? And I think this episode, along with the Mirror Universe arc, told me that the current showrunners are actually doing a better job with this idea than what Fuller may have been doing to start out with, because it was very much a slow burn beginning with the show. And honestly, watching those last 2 minutes, I think we can jettison all of season 1 and call it a day, aside from some of the character development. I do like the fact that they didn't do a reset button, which we've already talked about. I was very happy about that. True, but obviously the Federation has got some rebuilding to do. We had ugly ass Klingon ships that don't look like Klingon ships in orbit of, what was that? Were they in orbit of Jupiter? It was close. They were there.
It was close.
So they were ready to take out Sol. And so the Federation's got some rebuilding to do. I also think that anyone who was involved in the plan to blow up Kronos should be relieved of duty immediately. And having a nice little speech at the end is all fine and dandy, but Cornwall is a traitor to the Prime Directive of the Federation, and she should be shot. So that's just me. But
remember, consequences don't matter in this show.
We learned that the hard way today.
Yeah.
Did we segue into the next section?
Not yet. Let me. Okay, I need to be good. Okay, so
what a mic. All right.
but no, the Mike, you hit on with all the little nods to what's coming, and those I keep talking about the last 2 minutes, but we got so many things. The crew is actually the crew now. Saru, I still wish was just captain. I hope they just skip going to Vulcan and make him captain. But obviously they're going to see if they can get a big name to be captain next time. I loved the fact that they did wrap everything up with the Klingon arc, even though I don't like the Klingon arc, that is out of the way and we can start dealing with other things. And I think the key that made me the happiest about this episode is the writers had told us several weeks ago that this season 2 will be more like Star Trek. And the fact and the fact that we end the episode, and I'm not even referring to the Enterprise here, the fact that we end the episode with the crew on the bridge answering a distress call made me very, very happy. I don't want to get rid of serialization completely, but if we can have actually something that's not just a continual arc, that would be amazing for me. So let's go ahead and talk about things we didn't like, and I think, Mike, you're up.
Apparently I didn't pay my internet bill this week. I keep cutting out.
Yeah, Mediacom.
Yeah, classic Mediacom. Things I didn't like. Without harping too much on it, again, I didn't care for the story with them bringing Philippa back. I thought all of that was kind of ridiculous. I continue to have the problem with Admiral Cornwall. Kind of, I felt like she had a character going one direction and then did a quick 180 and then did a quick 180 again in this episode. And it's not that I don't understand there being some possible progression in that thought pattern, but it definitely, all of that, a lot of that flip-flopping happened in the last 2 episodes. So we kind of talked about the pacing of the series, and at times I think you and I had a bit of a disagreement about whether things were being rushed versus dragging on, and that was something that I felt was kind of rushed. I'm not altogether satisfied with the way that the Klingon storyline resolved. I'm glad to have it behind us. But the Klingon, the way they're portrayed in this series kind of bugs me. They're really portrayed as savages in my mind. And kind of right back to that again, where like, okay, you're going to tell me that the only way that the Klingons came together was because one of them threatened like atomic holocaust on their own home world, and that worked. I guess
we are an honorable people, and I'm going to blow your ass up if you don't listen to me. We're honorable.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many questions about how all that came to pass, where one minute she's like, well, I'm a nobody, and then the next minute, she managed to summon all of like the mightiest high-powered Klingon house leaders together and then like threaten them all into submission. Like it felt real hacky, real rushed. That, like I said, just a continuation of that whole storyline. Now, there's obviously the big payoff that it had. It's very nice, like we're the Federation, we're better than this moment, but it's kind of how I feel about it. So, yeah, I mean, I really feel like that's the main thing. We touched on the whole lack of consequences. I mean, Burnham already skirted her consequences a long time ago in this series, so they really didn't need to throw it in our face again that they like pardoned her and gave her back her commission and everything. But I suppose we all saw that coming. Yeah, the Admiral still sitting there, completely unpunished for nearly committing genocide, doesn't sit very well with me. And yeah, I think I'll stop there.
Mike, how about you?
So I agree with Mike on a lot of these points, especially on the Klingons, and it goes to the whole series, not just this episode. But these do not feel. I mean, the look thing aside, these do not feel like anything we've ever seen Klingons, as far as their traditions, how they act. This is just nothing there's nothing here that feels Klingon to any of the storyline or any of the way they've been portrayed. So that's still a continual complaint. And then, thinking you unify an entire planet because you threatened to push the button for the bomb that Starfleet just happened to leave behind. Type thing.
Yeah, and I'm still not going to buy that at least one person in that room didn't go, I don't believe you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like someone in that room's going to say, prove it.
Not to mention, why is that a Federation detonator that you have there?
Yeah, it's like someone's going to
go...
Are you
working with the Federation? Can we kill you now?
Yeah. And if it's coded to her, kill her and then put the thing on a shelf. Problem solved. So, slight plot issues there. And then, the whole lack of consequence thing in this is just getting to the point of absurd. I mean, we see time and time again characters and engaging activities with no consequence for any of it. It just gets ignored, which, certain parts of it, I can see the redemption story, but there's got to be a consequence somewhere. That part's got to be shown. Even if we go back to the original movie series, Kirk disobeyed orders. Yes, he saved the damn planet when he did it, but he still got busted back for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's consequences somewhere for what goes on.
That's still the best court-martial scene in Star Trek too. I love the end of Star Trek 4.
Yeah,
and they tried to do something here that I think was actually kind of harkening back to it with Burnham's speech at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the same, obviously.
No. So there's that, and like I said, that part of it it's starting to wear a little thin, and I'm hoping in season 2 that'll be something they address and try to do better. Because that's just getting and then the whole thing of putting Philippa in the command chair. Although I did like the scene with Tilly when she walked into the conference room and it dawned on her of it is, and all you have is just Ash going no, and Burnham nope. I have to admit, I love that scene, but
I love it when she grabs Tilly's hair and Tilly's like, "What's going on?"
Although, and that is one thing though, to an annoyance in this episode is I think they walked Tilly back some in this episode from what we have seen in the development.
Yes.
I think they took her backwards, and that annoyed the hell out of me because she was becoming one of the best developed characters, and I think they went back a few steps in the course of this episode.
It's not that I don't appreciate all of the nice comedic moments because they're all really good, but I would have to agree with you that this entire episode, Tilly had no other part but comedic relief, and
I think where they lost me on her in this episode, because I agree with you guys, is when she's holding the gun to the Orion and she starts almost sounding like maybe this is the right way to go. I mean, you're supposed to be our moral conscience in this whole thing. That's the way you've been set up the entire show. So the fact that you're the one who may be tipping a little bit, I'm not a big fan of. And she does get to drop the ship bomb for, I guess, a reason. So it's what I would say if I opened up a thing and saw a nuclear bomb. I would probably say, "Oh shit," too. So
Well, isn't she also the one that dropped the F-bomb?
Yes, she
Tilly's
was
getting all the good swear lines.
So, what I didn't like about the episode Klingons, as we've already discussed, I don't like the Klingon arc. I haven't liked the Klingon arc. Mike, you hit on it already. The whole bomb thing is just stupid. There are so many ways that she should have been shot in the face right when she tried doing that. It's a Federation detonator. Why do you have a Federation bomb? We think you have no strength here. You have no house. You have no ships. You have no anything except for one bomb. If I blast your head right now, it doesn't matter if you have a bomb or not. Or if I wait a week when you're sleeping and kill you, it doesn't matter if you have a bomb or not. So this whole bomb thing is stupid.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of my thought too. Is even if for some reason like she gets everybody's attention for half a second, that's not something that's going to build a lasting.
Because now you got 24 houses thinking, okay, this is the chick we have to kill now.
Yeah,
and it's just
bring them together.
True, yeah, nothing like unifying over assassination, that's for sure. But it just goes back to the original idea of having this arc be about the Klingon War was stupid to begin with because you had to end it stupidly. And the whole Tyler is going to stay with her, that's going to last all 5 minutes before he gets strung up. So I'm hoping that gets pushed to the side for a very long time and we never hear about it again, and I'm okay with that. The one thing I did like about the Klingon piece, everyone in this episode for the first 30 minutes is acting completely and totally stupid. Putting Georgiou in charge is idiotic.
Mhm.
And Saru just needed to tap a button and send her ass to the brig. And I know they try to play it up like, well, she reprogrammed the brig to only be active to her voice command there at that point, but you still could have sent her ass there earlier and gotten rid of that thing. So the fact that the Klingon, Laurel, is the one that says you've already lost because you're letting her kick my ass is an intelligent thing that they did there.
Mhm.
Kind of showing that even the Klingon thinks you're being not human right now. So what does that say? But that was the only thing with the Klingons that were actually something interesting to me. Yeah, I mean, you guys already hit on the Tilly thing. I think she definitely took a step back, and it's disappointing on a couple different levels. But I don't have too much to complain about this because everything I didn't like about this episode is that plot line. So I could complain about every piece of that plot line, but it's the same plot line that pissed me off the whole time. And once that got cleared up in the last 10, 15 minutes and you kind of knew where it was going, the episode turned for me. So that's what I got. Anything else you guys want to complain about?
I think one thing I would throw in is just the way, we knew they're going to have to do something with the spore drive because we never hear of this thing again, ever.
Yep.
And I don't like the way they wrote that out because all it was, they've decided to keep looking until they can figure out how to do it without a person. That, I think they could have done better by saying, hey, this opens the gateway to the mirror universe. We're not touching this damn thing again.
It's kind of like Event Horizon. This opens the gateway to hell. Let's not do it again.
Yeah, it's like, let's leave it alone. Versus that, hey, we're still going to research around with this. Because we know they're not. We know it's not going to happen. We don't see the, Defiant spinning around in DS9 just popping into places.
I feel as though that was intentionally left over for season 2.
I hope not.
It makes me wonder. My feeling is that we'll see Spore Drive in season 2.
God damn it, more mushrooms.
Why?
I was with Stamets. I'm okay with going at warp. I'm okay with that. Let's just keep it up.
Yeah. I bet it'll be back. It'll be back as some pivotal. Oh yeah, we forgot we have chainsaw sword arms. Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim Uprising looks amazing.
It's okay.
Oh, come on.
Anyway.
Without Bay. It can't be that bad.
But no.
Guillermo del Toro is getting his Oscar, so he couldn't be involved.
There you go. I have a feeling we'll see more Spore Drive, and that was very intentionally handled the way that it was handled. Which is why I kind of alluded to my prediction that I'm not sure we have totally cleared the reset button woods just yet. Guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think this episode was a reset. I mean, it wasn't a hard we're gonna go back in time and fix things, but nothing in season 1 matters now.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree very much with what you were saying, and it hadn't really occurred to me that way, but that really this is a bit of a reset from the standpoint that the Federation has kind of gotten decimated, and it's going to give them an opportunity to rebuild and look at what happened, and that is smart writing to go that direction with the let's get back on track and make this thing Star Trek again. But again, I don't know. We'll see what kind of writing takes place in season 2. I want to be super optimistic about it, but I do have that hunch that Spore Drive isn't done yet. And as long as that thing is out there looming, especially when they had an opportunity to, as we talked about in the previous episode, more intelligently put an end to that, and then actively chose not to, here again, makes me think it'll be back.
Plus, they have their Genesis moon of mushrooms out there still, too.
That's what I'm referring to. They could have just said, the mushrooms are gone, Spore Drive's dead, bye, it's over.
The one reason why I think that may not happen, and I can see it definitely happen. You may very well be right, but on the meta side of things, we know this episode was filmed the weekend. It was actually completed filming the weekend that episode 1 dropped.
Mm-hmm.
So unless there was no reshoots that we know of. So aside from editing, there was nothing that they could have done to change this show based on fan reaction. Right. So season 2 is the first time they can sit down and say, here's what the fans are saying. Here's what the people who are not fans are saying. So let's figure this out. So I think anything set up in this final episode in this season is open to whatever the showrunners want to do. They may have been going towards the spore drive, but if they see that the reaction was, this is a really stupid idea, they now have an ability to say, it's just gone. We can never figure out how to use it without harming humans and large space beings, so we're never going to talk about it again. The same thing with Tilly. At the end of this episode, Tilly is going to command school. She's going to Starfleet Academy. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you that actress is coming back next season. So she's not going to Starfleet Academy. But that's the way it was set up before this show started. But because she seems to have a following online, she will be back next season. So that's going to change. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with the reason why they don't show us who the new captain of Discovery is going to be. Because, one, they probably want to find somebody who has cred like Jason Isaacs to come on and do it. But also they wanted to see how everything turned out with the fan reaction before they picked who's going to be in charge now. So that's why the writers probably don't even know who it's going to be yet, or if it's even going to be somebody. Like I said, they could bypass Vulcan and make Saru captain and call it a day. So we'll see how that goes. But I think everything is going to be up to what the fan reaction is now. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's why I really, truly feel like this is the pilot for the show, these last 2 to 3 minutes. And I'm okay with that.
Fair enough. I had a couple other things I was going to mention. How did you guys feel about the fact that there's like this weird, very Star Wars feeling like Mos Eisley Orion camp just on Kronos?
Yeah. Well, they said it was an embassy. But that is a goofy-ass embassy.
I mean, I guess it makes as much sense as anything else that has to do with the Klingons, but...
Now you mention that, though, the another thing that... A reference that they made that, again, it's almost like the showrunners did hire some fans to be on the show, in the writer's room, and they came on at like episode 5 or 6. So basically when Fuller left, the fans came on. And I like the reference to Molar and the kind of Kalos versus Molar thing. If you read the TNG books, the Kalos in TNG is actually Molar. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting how they reference that too. But now I'm just being a nerd. So, but yeah, no, they said it was an embassy, but yeah. That was kind of weird.
I just thought it was really strange, and like I remembered watching the preview going into this one, and my takeaway was like, wow, I saw an awful lot of butts in that preview, and then I saw a lot of butts in this episode, and I thought it was real weird because it didn't look like they were on Kronos.
When I decided that Star Trek Discovery needed a change, what I meant by that was it needed pasties. That's what Star Trek needed. We needed thongs and we needed pasties because
also,
that is what makes Star Trek.
Pretty sure there was an implication that Klingons have 2 penises. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, no, that I actually said that. I as soon as it happened, I was like, well, they got 2 dongs. That's great. Hear that? That guy has some serious needs for medical attention.
It's an old war injury.
Creeper also says that Paris looks like Coruscant.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I mentioned. I said when they showed us Paris, and at first I thought it was San Francisco because we've always seen San Francisco, but obviously you had the Eiffel Tower there. And UFP is headquartered in Paris, I believe. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Yep, it's Discovery, so we can't have sunlight. It's got to be dark. God damn it, we can't have sunlight in this show."
Well, who knows how many other Mirror Universe people have been infiltrating us for centuries, and no one noticed.
Another thing I didn't like because of the Paris thing is one of the things I was arguing about the most last episode was there had to be a reset because Sarek went too far off the deep end. And in this episode, they didn't fix that.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, I'm sorry, but if you're going to make this a prequel, you got to live by the prequel piece. In Journey to Babel, Sarek is a Federation ambassador, but he does not like Starfleet. He does not believe in Starfleet. He believes Spock made a mistake when he went to Starfleet. He hasn't spoken to his son in years because he joined Starfleet. And at the end of this episode, of course, future seasons may change it, but he's saying, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you're with Starfleet. I'm happy with what Starfleet did. That's not Sarek. If you wanted him to be a different character, great, but that's not Sarek. And you're cheapening Journey to Babel, which is one of the best episodes of TOS. And I'm ranting again because I'm the comic book guy.
Yeah.
It's all on point, I think, though. Like I had meant to mention something about Sarek's involvement in all of this and the fact that they never did address it. So you were spot on. Also, Creeper has some really interesting facts.
Yeah, I was about to say there's apparently a discussion of Klingon dicks in the chat room.
And multiple. And I just told Creeper that they don't speak about it to outsiders, much like the originals. So John is arguing with me that saying that she's not Vulcan, so it's different. I get that, and that's what they're playing with here. But I don't care about Michael and her feelings on Starfleet and her feelings on Sarek. I care about Sarek as a character, and the growth of Sarek. Even though he's only in like 4 or 5 episodes, if that, maybe not even that, including TNG and a couple of the movies, the growth of Sarek as a character from Journey to Babel to when he dies in TNG in Unification is an amazing arc, because he goes from somebody who will not speak to his son to somebody who the last thoughts before he dies is of his son, and that he wishes he would have been able to tell him how proud he was of him and how much he loved him. That's a great arc that spans literally 70 years of story. And now we're cheapening that by interjecting him into this story where he doesn't need to be.
Well,
and that's my problem.
There is, potentially 10 years between now and that story, though.
Yeah, I mean,
they could, in subsequent seasons, explore something that happens.
Agreed. And I think if they wanted to deal with it, they can do that. And there's like 1% of the people viewing this show is going to have a problem with it. I just happen to be one of the 1%. So
well, and I guess to that point, I guess I could only mention that if in Journey to Babel, if the story that's been established already in TOS is that Sarek is disappointed in Spock for joining Starfleet, well, Spock is already in Starfleet right now.
Yes,
so
on the
Sarek
Enterprise.
Doesn't feel that way now. It's going to be pretty shitty of him in 10 years to turn around and tell his son, "You made a mistake that I approved of 10 years ago."
Well, and they've already showed us when we had the flashbacks to Vulcan, like episode 3 or 4 or 5, that his biggest mistake in his life is Spock.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. And fathers and sons can go a lifetime without talking to each other, and it's tragic when it happens. But you have to build upon that characterization to get to that point. And when you watch this linear from Discovery to TOS, based on what we have right now, I think it hurts it. Now, Blake, you're completely right. We have probably 2 to 7 seasons left of this thing where they could fix that easily. But it's just annoying that a prequel causes this kind of issue, and I go back to the fact that this shouldn't be a prequel, but it is. One thing I would have loved to see is Ronald D. Moore. I think it was Ronald D. Moore. It may have been Brian Singer, one of the two. Their plan was to take Star Trek 200 to 400 years into the future of TNG and deal with the exact same thing we're dealing with right now in this show, and that is the Federation's on the decline. And the Federation is waning, and the idea of rebuilding it from scratch. And I think this show is trying to do that anyway, so I would have preferred it just be in the future and do it that way. And
I think we've said that from the beginning. Everything in this series works 300 years forward in the timeline.
Yeah.
And the Klingons look ugly as sin in 300 years, I guess. Yeah, Creeper. Bryan Singer actually was looking at making a Star Trek TV show for a while. And that's why he was on the bridge of the Enterprise and got killed in Nemesis. Because he's a Star Trek fan. Okay.
Well, let's just be glad that didn't happen because we probably wouldn't want to see the Orions then.
Whew. Well, I don't know, man. Would it be any different? I saw that Orion slave man's ass, and there wasn't much.
I'm not saying I'm complaining. I'm not saying I'm complaining with that particular scene. I'm just saying I don't want to see the Bryan Singer version of it.
And one thing we learned from that scene too is Georgiou is amazing in bed because they didn't want to make her pay when it was all said and done.
Well, I mean, it is Michelle Yeoh. She's just generally amazing.
Was that her standard issue Federation leather corset also?
Maybe she brought some luggage with her when she came over.
It was hanging up next to the black Starfleet symbols.
Now we know what they were for.
So Section exactly 31 has some fun parts.
So exactly which section is 31?
Okay, moving right along.
So anyway.
Let's go ahead. What I want to do is I want to score this episode. And then I want to kind of get a little bit of discussion real quick about the show as a whole, which I think we did most of that, but just in case we want to talk a little bit more about season 1. And then I want to talk about season 2 a bit before we wrap up. So let's go ahead and give our rankings on this, the final episode of season 1. For those of you just joining us, welcome. We rate these episodes on a scale of 1 to 10, and we base them in comparison to other episodes in the franchise. So a 5 would be an average episode of Star Trek. A 10 would be Best of Both Worlds Part 1, maybe. And a 1 would be, give me a terrible episode, guys.
Oh, jeez.
Code of Honor is still pretty bad.
We've been beating up on Code of Honor, yeah.
I mean, how do you go lower than that?
Cat's Paw. TOS. Yeah. The Witches in the Cauldron. We'll go with Cat's Paw. Okay.
There we go. It's Cat's Paw.
So on a scale from Cat's Paw to Best of Both Worlds Part 1, Blake, where would you score Will You Take My Hand?
I'm going to go with a 7 on this one. I don't think it was the best of the series. I think the last 2 minutes was good, but yeah, 7.
Mike?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm kind of thinking as well. For as much as I didn't like the overall plot of the last 2 episodes in particular, I think overall they still managed to entertain. They still managed to satisfy me in terms of where the season concluded. So, I wasn't bored.
For me, I was pretty hard on the last week episode. I think this the first 30 minutes I'm not a fan of, but the last 20 minutes makes up a lot of it. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go with Blake. I'm going to say a 7 as well. I think it's an above average episode for sure. So let's go ahead and give our final thoughts about season 1 and where we've been so far on these 15 episodes. Mike, what do you have?
Overall, I can't say that I felt like season 1 felt as Star Trek-y as I would have liked it to. I'm generally okay with it having its own different tone, with it kind of following suit with every other TV show these days and being a little bit darker, a little bit grittier, trying to capture that realism that is like the moral struggle and all that. But in general, I mean, I feel like for all of its many failings, that season 1 was a success. I mean, it is still the best season 1 of any Star Trek series so far. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look at the TV shows that we've had from, I'm gonna ignore the animated series, but from TOS to now, I think this is the most well put together. I think it helps them that they only had 15 episodes as opposed to, I think TOS had 32 in season 1. But I think it's definitely one of the strongest seasons for a season 1 opener. Definitely. I mean, it hands down better than Voyager and Enterprise and TNG. I'm kind of torn on TOS and just DS9 still.
DS9 I mean, in general, I mean, it made for some gripping exciting TV. You know, I don't think anything was so weird about it that it's going to turn people off. I think a lot of people who are even more outsiders to Trek would tune into this and enjoy it, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So yeah, overall, I mean, I'm in general pleased with where Discovery has gone.
Blake, what about you?
I would agree with that, and I think overall for a first season of a Star Trek series, this is the most solid we've seen. You know, I think they did more in terms of character development, or at least attempted to. They didn't always land it. But, I mean, I think we went through 7 seasons of Voyager without character development that we've seen in this first season for Discovery. So, I think they did strong. I think you can definitely tell there was a writer's room switch, and I think that's going to play out better in season 2 and make for a stronger going forward. And kind of as you mentioned earlier, I think we saw the pilot for Discovery in the last 2 minutes tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to carry forward. But as far as getting it started, getting it off the ground, and as Mike said, bringing in new audiences to it, I think it succeeded there across the board.
You know, it's like, if anything, as I'm thinking about it, it's like what this really needed is editing. You know, if you look at the season as a whole, it had all these great moments, these great parts, great storylines, and it had a whole lot of other stuff that none of us enjoyed mixed in with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally the symptom of the writer's room switch. So it leaves me hopeful that if they can hang on to a single writer's room for season 2, that we'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
And I think the only other thing I'd say with season 1 is I think where in one of the areas I'm just going to say it fell flat as a season. I think in some scenes of the exterior, the visuals were great. The ship looked great. And in other seasons, I think they either ran out of time or didn't put the attention to detail. Like, just some of the exterior CGI of the ships just looked comically animated. You know, and I didn't like it. I think there was some better work done in some of the modeling in DS9 at the time, even when they went into CGI. So I just think some of the CGI in this could use some work.
Yeah, I said with the Mirror Universe wrap-up episode, either they've rendered Discovery better, and of course they've had more time to render it now, or they're just giving it more beauty shots. But even in this episode, Discovery looked much better than it has.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's part of at least scaling. It's partly giving it just the right view when you look at it. But it looked atrocious starting out for me, and it's kind of grown on me. I think it's still an ugly ass ship. But I will say though, the CGI in this show, for the most part, has been pretty well done. From what I've seen. Now, yeah, you're right. Some of the animation on some of the ships, and I still think the Klingon ships look like freaking terrible.
Yeah,
but yeah, they've put some thought into these things, and so I appreciate that. I wish they would get their scaling right and not make it 700 meters long when you're trying to fly around. But whatever.
Again, with the size issues.
Yeah, well, some of us don't have 2, so we have to measure some other way.
Wow, Scott, you never cease to.
That's why you keep me around, sir. Okay,
I'm gonna buy you an Eagle Moss Discovery and send it to you.
The Shinzu, the Shizo. Oh my God!
Shinzu.
Yes, the Shinzu looks amazing. The Eagle Moss. I have so. If you want to send me that one, I'd be fine with it.
That was $50 too. Hey, I can send you a Jaeger. I'll send you a Jaeger class. It's only $23.
See, I told you they're expensive as sin, though, aren't they?
They're not 100 though. You're off a little bit.
Either way, but no, for season 1, as you guys already mentioned, I think this was a very strong season in terms of production value. I wish we would have not gotten bogged down in the serialization of the Klingon arc, obviously. I'm hoping that we get a little bit in between. Orville has been very much episodic, much like TNG was. I'm hoping that we get... I'm going to refer back to Enterprise Season 4 because I think that's the best way of doing it. Mini arcs here and there with a few fillers in. I think that would be perfect for the show. And I think that would be able to keep some storylines going without beating the dead horse over and over again. So that's what I'm hoping for there. But season 1, I think in total, was, for the most part, I'm going to say forgettable. I think it's I think the show is moving in the right direction, but unless something changes and they refer back to it a lot more than I'm expecting, I don't think I ever have to watch season 1 again. I can start with season 2, and much like Enterprise and much like TNG, I will just never really worry about it from here on out. So I'm hoping season 2 will be less forgettable than that for me.
It's fair.
What we want to see in season 2? What are we expecting? Some predictions. Blake, what do you got?
So, as far as predictions, I think we are going to see a crew of the Enterprise. I think they're going to have to. The ship can't just show up and just have radio communication. There's going to at least have to be some type of visual. What it carries into, what it goes to, I think we're going to see some. I'm thinking it's going to go more of a mini arc approach. I don't think they're going to do another season-long arc. I think they're going to get some pushback on that.
Mike, what do you got?
Not a lot, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, I do think we're going to see some interaction with the Enterprise and some recasting of classic, original crew. I think we'll see Spock. I'm sure we'll see Sarek again. And I feel fairly confident, we'll see Harry Mudd and we'll see Michelle Yeoh reappear at some point throughout the season. But I mean, as far as story, it's really hard to say. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of prediction to go there.
It could be interesting, just as a thought. I mean, and I don't know, Scott, you can correct me on timeline on this, but if, Enterprise's #1 ends up captain on Discovery, I don't know if that would fit.
She's not there. She's not there by the second pilot because, behind the scenes, the studio heads didn't want a woman in leadership, so they got rid
so
of
after
her.
the Cage, she just disappeared. So
Yeah.
I mean,
and we didn't even know her name. She was just always #1. I mean, there's some fan theories online that she's a robot because she kind of acted like one. Majel Barrett wasn't exactly the best actress in town.
Well, that's what happens when you're sleeping with the showrunner.
Not yet. That led to that.
Was there any significance to the fact that they were picking up their new captain from Vulcan?
I don't know. I don't think we're going to get...
Okay. I didn't know if I missed something there.
I think they just needed to have Sarek on the Discovery.
Because I think I think, and that's where I think you guys are completely right on they're going to recast the TOS crew at least a little bit. Sarek's on Discovery so he can run into Spock.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be that way.
It's the elephant in the series. They have to address it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and with Michael and Spock too. I mean, your half sister or not adopted sister. I mean, Spock has to be there. He's on the ship right across the way. And if they try to play he's on shore leave or something, it's just going to come off stupid. You've pulled the trigger on the Enterprise. Now you have to run with it.
We may never see a Captain Kirk in this series, but we have to see Spock at some point.
And here's my conspiracy theory, Mike. A couple things. As much as I like Star Trek Beyond, the Star Trek reboot movie franchise is in limbo. Tarantino's talking about it, but Tarantino's been in some hot water the past few weeks too, so he may get booted out just because of what he's done in his past as well. And JJ is obviously making Star Wars 9, so he's off for a while. So I think that one's in limbo. And also there are some heated discussions about Viacom, CBS, Paramount coming back together. For those who may not know, probably most people, Paramount and CBS were all one company for a long time called Viacom, and Viacom split, and CBS took the TV rights of Star Trek. Paramount took the movie rights. One of the reasons why we had a reboot universe is because they couldn't really play in the same sandboxes. There are talks that CBS and Paramount may merge back into one, which means the sandboxes merge into one, and I can see CBS and Paramount know that for most people, most of the layman's out there, most of the norms, Star Trek is Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Mhm.
I mean, even TNG at its heyday, it's still Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. So I can definitely see CBS thinking to themselves, we now can play in both sandboxes again, we can do movies again, everything else. Let's use this as a backdoor pilot. Let's use Discovery to bring our crew back together, and then 2, 3, 4 years from now, we got TOS Part 2.
Mhm.
And so I think the Spock casting will be pretty telling, if that's something they're trying to do there, because I can definitely see them moving this timeline ahead 10 years and just saying, screw Discovery, let's just do the Enterprise again and just reboot completely.
So you're looking for them to aim really high with who they cast as Spock.
Or somebody who is unknown enough to where they can make him sign on to a series. That's the whole thing, too. I mean, I actually think they would have to go for a little less, because one of the reasons why you can't bring the TOS movie guys onto the TV is because none of those guys, Carl Urban's not going to sign a TV contract. They're already trying to make him do a Judge Dredd TV show, and he won't do it.
I was going to say, Carl Urban was in some other horrible TV show that only lasted about 2 episodes. So I wouldn't say that. But
Okay. Chris Pine is not going to do a TV show.
Also, Dredd was an amazing movie.
Agree. Completely agree. But what I'm getting at is, I think
get you.
if I'm a CEO of CBS, and Les Moonves, and I'm looking at this thing and saying, okay, Discovery's doing well. What can we do to do better? Put Kirk on it.
Mm-hmm.
That would CBS All Access subscriptions go through the roof as soon as you do that. So I can see that happening down the road. But a couple of things I already mentioned with season 2. I think a lot of what was planted here in season 1's finale is going to go by the wayside. You mentioned, is there anything with the Vulcan, picking up the captain of Vulcan? I don't even know if they're ever going to go to Vulcan still. I guarantee you Tilly's not going to Starfleet Academy. So there's going to be some changes, definitely.
I don't know about that. I think, because we've seen that especially in some of the TOS episodes before with cadets on ships. So I wouldn't be so sure on the Tilly part of that.
Yeah, it could
I'll
be.
disagree with you on it. She's already
be
been
an internet
in the
course.
academy and is a cadet. So,
well,
if it's a command training program, she may well be on the ship to do that.
True. I mean, we've. I don't know if it's ever been canonized on the TV shows what command school is. I mean, the books, command school is an extra year at Starfleet, Starfleet Academy. But obviously, that's how they got rid of Wesley. They sent him to Starfleet Academy.
Well, hey, we know that they've got holodecks in the Discovery, so.
Cynthia in the chat room asks, her badge changes. She's still a cadet? No, they mentioned she's an ensign. They gave her full commission in the last few minutes of the episode. And I think they also they obviously gave Burnham back her commander rank, but since Saru is acting captain, he's still first officer. So she is. They have 2 commanders ranked on the bridge, which is kind of goofy. Was Stamets a lieutenant commander at the end of that?
I don't remember.
I have to go back and look. But yeah, but the most important thing about season 2 that I'm looking forward to is I have the screenshot finally ready here because I went back and got it. So let's look at this in all its beauty here.
We knew Scott was going to have to put up a picture.
Look at her. Look at that wonderful, wonderful thing. I mean, that's just beautiful. I as much as I've beat Discovery up, they did a damn good job with that ship. I mean, it looks very TOS. The shuttle bay's right. The nacelles are even TOS buzzard collectors. It's got a little bit of the blue, which is new, but that's kind of an update from Discovery. I mean, damn, it's a good-looking ship. Okay, I'm good.
Well, I hope you enjoy seeing it for 5 minutes.
Creeper and I both love our starship porn, so we had to have
you have barely dressed Orions, and you're spending more time going over the nacelles of the Enterprise.
She has ample nacelles.
We really need.
And I'm sure you would just love to get your hands on them.
with my transwarp beaming.
Oh.
And Superman Prime, hi, is telling me that yes, there were 2 captains on the Enterprise with Kirk and Spock. there were actually like 4 or 5. I think they were all captains by Star Trek 6.
Yeah, so, Scotty was.
Scotty was a captain. Spock was a captain. Kirk was a captain.
Zulu was a captain.
Chekhov was a commander. So everyone gets to be captain on the Enterprise because no one's leaving. And yet Cynthia says that the blue on the nacelle reminds her of the NX. I think the NX aesthetic, the Enterprise aesthetic, is very much alive and well in Discovery, which I'm okay with. I think if you were going to reboot it, they did a damn good job of rebooting it. I like the movies, the new movie versions, but I think it is a little too much not like the original. The Enterprise A from Beyond is much more like the original if you look at it than what the Enterprise from 2009 and Into Darkness looked like. But now I'm just geeking out on starships again. But that Constitution class tonight was beautiful. I'm very happy with it. Anything else you guys want to talk about while I discuss starship porn?
I really hope we see more Harry Potter cast make an appearance in season 2. I mean, Ralph Fiennes as the new captain.
That'd be amazing.
It would be amazing, actually.
Jason Isaacs and Ralph Fiennes. Because Isaacs come back. By the way, you guys mentioned Mudd. Was anyone else expecting Mudd to be the guy who got tossed out of the strip joint on the Orion Embassy?
I did actually thought we'd see him somewhere in that episode.
As soon as that guy got tossed out of the strip joint, I was like, "That's Mudd. It has to be." Okay, well, I think we'll go ahead and start wrapping things up here. I want to say,
Tribbles never factored into it.
No, the Tribble was never. It got blasted when she took out the
wow! I just realized.
Tyler and the Tribble never met.
I'll be damned. You got me, Discovery.
What I call it in the first episode, or the third episode, Chekhov's Tribble, Chekhov's gun. You put it on the mantle in Act 1. It must come down in Act 3. But no, I guess not. But I do want to thank everyone in the chat room for joining along with us on this. I mean, this has been really exciting and fun for us. We've had some great interactions with all of you. Viewership continues to be really good for these. Unless we put it out on a Monday instead of a Sunday, then there is no viewers. But
yeah, well.
Thanks, Super Bowl. But we're going to keep going with this. It won't be weekly. I got to talk to the guys and figure out what our schedules are going to look like. But I definitely want to start talking about things other than Discovery when it comes to Star Trek. So we'll be doing more of these before Discovery Season 2 shows up in 2019. And, of course, whenever we can get my brother Craig to finally watch a few episodes of Babylon 5, Blake and I are going to start our Babylon 5 show, too. So be on the lookout for that.
Scott, if I just send you a copy of the Oregonian rolled up, will you just go whack him over the head with it till he does this?
I'm happy to. And
I'll get one in the mail to you.
I'm getting very close to saying that if he's on, he's on, and if he's not, he's not. So either way,
you and I can just do it if we have to. I mean, we've seen talk about Babylon 5.
I've already rewatched season 1. I'm good to go. Cynthia is saying maybe 2020. I don't think Discovery waits until 2020.
No.
CBS is going to want to hit the iron while it's hot. The writer's room already started going. They started going a few months ago. So I bet you they've got most of season 2 mapped out. And they're going to start. Yes, John, we will talk starships. There's going to be an episode devoted just to starship porn. I promise you that. So what you need to do if you want to watch our episode about starship porn is you need to click the notify button on your YouTube account. So not only subscribe, but click notify. Because when we do go live for these discussions, you'll be notified so you can join in the chat room with us live. And of course, if you're listening to the podcast version later on, please be sure to like and subscribe as well, too, and give us a rating on your podcast app of choice. You can find us at thefrontremoverreviews.com. You can email us at thefrontremoverreviews@gmail.com. And when you go to the website, check out some of our other shows. I have a Twilight Zone retrospective. We're actually almost to episode 50 of that. When Brandon and I are not sick at the same time, that will come back hopefully next week. We have Craig, my brother, does reviews of Disney films. He just did Disney's Hercules. We do full disclosures. We'll be doing a full disclosure spoiler reaction to Black Panther this coming weekend. I'm going to see it when I'm out in Virginia, and then we're going to do a review here this weekend. So we got a lot of stuff going on. So please go check out the frontmoviereviews.com and make sure you subscribe to all of that so you can continue to check out what we're doing. And we will be back here with Discovering Star Trek soon. And I will let everyone know what soon means as soon as we know what soon means. But we'll definitely be back pretty quick. So until next time, I am Scott, and with me as always has been
Blake.
Good God, man.
That was a perfect drop off there. Say your name before you drop again.
Mike. Screw you, Mediacom.
One of the best things about moving away from the Quad Cities was never having to deal with Mediacom ever again. Comcast isn't much better, but it's not Mediacom. So, yeah. So, okay, until next time, we will see you on the couch, and live long and prosper. And again, thank you to everyone who's been with us in the chat room. Our mainstays, Cynthia, John, Creeper, our new folks. Thanks for sticking with us, and we will be back soon to talk more Trek. Have a good night, folks.